So we're delighted to have Mr. Jamal Berradia with us today, a seasoned professional with over 3 decades of experience in manufacturing and human resources, primarily with P&G. His successful story as a Moroccan on a global scale has inspired many young generations and future leaders. Despite his retirement, he is now an executive coach focusing on diversity, inclusion, and leadership development. Mr. Jamal, welcome. Would you
Thank
like
you
to
very much.
introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I would like to congratulate Hillary School for this initiative. Um, I really very much like what you are doing, and this is a very good initiative for the students. Um, that's one thing. The second thing I want to clarify is whatever I'm going to say or mention is my own point of view. I'm not trying to speak on the voice of P&G. I retired, as you said, 5 years ago, and whatever I'm going to say is my own assessment, my own opinion, and it's not engaging Procter and Gamble, a company I have worked for 35 years. I have enjoyed every day, really every day in P&G, despite all the challenges I have had in my 35 years of career in P&G. If you want me very briefly to talk about my career in P&G, I would summarize it by saying uh, I can split the 35 years in different ways. One way is to say my career of 35 years was split in two: 10 years in manufacturing and 25 years in human resources. I can split it in another way by saying I've spent 11 years with P&G in Morocco and the rest 24 years outside Morocco in three different countries: Saudi Arabia in Jeddah, Switzerland in Geneva, where I've spent more than half of my career. I have spent almost 19 years in Geneva. And my last 2 years were in Dubai, in United Emirates, Arab Emirates. Um, and I can split also my 35 years in two, where I would say um, I was in a country, operating in a country, and that was in Morocco and in Saudi Arabia. So that's a total of 15 years. And the other 20 years were in a regional headquarter where you are more uh, in charge of a region in the headquarter of that region. So that's my 35 years in P&G. I've been proud of obviously achieving several things. My pride in Morocco is to meet, even today, time to times, all the leaders we have developed in Morocco. They occupy today positions as ministers or as general managers in different companies in Morocco. And it's always a pleasure to see them taking higher responsibilities, while most of them, I have interviewed them either in the office or in their room in the university, or in a taxi in Paris, or around the dinner. So it's always a pleasure to meet these people. So that's, I would say, my biggest pride in Morocco, on top of um, having PNG um, not known in Morocco uh, in the 80s when I joined, to become the employer of choice in Morocco. In the 80s, we were not known at all. Um, and thanks to the recruiting campaign we started in 1990, we became the employer choice after 2 or 3 years in Morocco. In Saudi, my pride is to have grown Saudis. Um, PNG in Saudi, the representation of Saudis was only 22% in the headquarters. When I left Saudi in 1999, after 4 years, this representation became 48% and reached 60% later on. Um, that's a major work on diversity and inclusion and um, developing the right Saudi leaders. In the regional responsibilities is to develop local leaders. And when I was in Central Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa as regional HRVP, my mission was to groom locals from Russia, from Poland, from Turkey, from Hungary, etc., or from South Africa, or from Egypt, or from Morocco, to become the general managers of the future. And we succeeded also to develop much more than what PNG needed, because some of them left PNG and are general managers in um, other companies. And we had even a minister in Egypt. And
I see.
my last pride is the fusion when we consolidated two major regions, India, Middle East, and Africa, with Asia Pacific. So we succeeded to have one region, one leadership team. And as we say in French, après ça, j'ai tiré ma révérence.
That's really interesting. Thank you. So as you said, you began your career as a quality assurance engineer
Yep.
before transitioning to human resources, right? So what inspired this change and what are the challenges that you faced along the way?
But just to clarify, quality assurance was my first job. Okay.
Mhm.
And by the way, in that first job, one of the pride I have is that the pack of aerial that you have in Morocco, that is commercialized in Morocco, I was the engineer in 1985 with another colleague who produced the first pack of aerial in Morocco, and that was back in 1985. I guess all of you were not born at that time.
No, we're not.
Uh, but quality assurance was my first job, and then I had other responsibilities. And my last job in manufacturing was head of operations. And operations is consolidates uh, quality assurance, production, warehousing, logistics. Um, what inspired me to move to HR? First of all, um, as I was doing my operations job, I realized that the biggest challenges that I had as a leader in operations, the challenges were not technical. Um, technical, I could simplify it by saying 1 + 1 = 2 in technical aspects. Once you know the process, you master it, you get at the end the result that you should expect to get from the process. In HR, in organization and people matters, 1 + 1 = 3 or 4 or whatever, but it doesn't equal 2 sometimes. It's very complex because we have to deal with humans, and humans are much more complex than machines. So that really intrigued me and inspired me to, um, if you want, explore this area. Luckily, PNG gave me the opportunity to do some of the HR work where I was still head of operations. Um, the plant manager at that time gave me the mission to lead the recruitment for the plant. And that was the starting point of bringing the best engineers, either from Morocco or from France, mainly from France. I was going doing campaigns of recruitment in France while I was still in operations. I was not in HR. Um, I had the chance to be a trainer while I was head of HR, of operations. I had the chance to participate to union negotiations when I was head of operations. And by the way, being the head of operation makes you to be the first point of contact with the employee representatives and with union. All this made me feel and enjoy the field of HR. As the company needed a human resources leader, usually in PNG, we have a career review every year with our boss. In one of my career reviews, I have put an assignment in human resources as my preferred option. And in product supply, it is a very good step for growing in manufacturing or in product supply. So that was not a risk that I was taking. At the end, because the company had plans to grow, they approached me to become the head of HR for the subsidiary of Morocco. And I became HR leader overnight without having any, if you want, assignment. I didn't have any assignment in HR. And I was sent in France for a 1 month training in the HR organization, and took the job overnight. Um, so that's what inspired me to move to HR. And frankly speaking, uh, at one stage, I had the possibility to go back after 3 years, after 4 years, to become a plant manager. But very quickly, the president of Middle East and Africa, in one of his visits in Morocco, came to see me and said, I need you. I need you to replicate what you have done in Morocco for Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia was his biggest market. Saudi Arabia at that time, and still today, or even more today, was probably 6, 7 times bigger than the Moroccan market, with a huge organization, very complex because of the um, expats volume we had in Saudi, and it's a strategic market for the company. So that's in a nutshell what inspired me to move to HR. Now, you need to know that HR in PNG is a bit different than most of the other companies. PNG do not use consultant. We don't go to consultant to do a specific work or intervention like McKinsey or BCG. We do our own work, and therefore the HR work is really very strategic, high level, very interesting, and I really enjoyed uh, my career in HR.
Thank you. And now I'll give the mic to Radia for her question.
So my first question for you, sir, is, in your opinion, what are the essential qualities companies should look for in new hires beyond technical skills?
Yeah. First of all, these qualities evolve over time. Huh? But what I want, what I will talk more about are the qualities that, to me, stay constant. Um, First of all, is leadership. Okay, and you will argue that, well, how can we be a leader if we are just um coming out of university? Well, the way we assess leadership for those who come from university is through experiences they have had on campus. Um, those who have had internship, we ask questions on how they led a project. Those who are in associations, student associations, we assess if they have skills to become leaders. Okay, but leadership to me is an essential quality. The second is what I would say um, communication slash positive power of influence. Communication, we need to remember one thing on communication. Communication is not only speaking or writing, communication is also listening. So, I have had situations in interviews where the interviewee was not answering my questions because he was not listening. To me, he failed on communication. So, communication is key, and I add to it positive power of influence, which is how you can positively influence those you need to influence to make a decision. Um, and it requires that you know when to speak, when to ask question, when you have to listen, and that's what I would call the positive power of influence. The third one is, to me, adaptability or being versatile. Uh, and why? Mainly because we are in a world that is permanently changing, and an individual has to be adaptable and adapt to change. So that's a key quality. Obviously, having common sense, um, that's really key. Being sociable, i.e., somebody who can have who can build collaboration and relationship. This is key because you work in teams. One thing important for me is humility, being humble. Because when we are humble, we are open to learn. And being open to learn is important. Being open to change his or her position is important. Uh, One thing very, very close to my heart, being an HR from PNG, is somebody who has values, principles, integrity, honesty, somebody we can trust is very, very, very important. To me, it's a prerequisite. Somebody who takes initiatives, doesn't wait for the others to tell him or her what to do, being proactive versus reactive. And last but not least, in a world of major challenges, is being resilient. So these are the qualities that, in my view, are essential.
So,
Thank you.
so I'd like to thank you for your answers. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
So I let the mic to Ella.
Thank you. Thank you so much for these qualities, sir. Now I give the mic to our second interviewer, Yasin, for his question.
Hello. So my question is, how do large organizations like Procter and Gamble identify and develop future leaders within their teams? And thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, um, just to say one thing, being a leader is not being in charge. It's not about being in charge. Being a leader is about taking care of those who are in charge. That's the way I would see the leaders. Leaders are those who deliver results through their organization. Okay. Now, P&G has developed a very nice model of leadership. Uh, that model is called 5E. E is the letter E, and I will mention the 5 E's. The first E is envision. A leader is somebody who has a vision. He creates the future. Okay? That's the first E. The second E, a successful leader will engage. So, engage, second E, his team or his organization or her organization to deliver that vision. So, he enrolls them or she enrolls them to that vision. The third E is enable. He will or she will build capability, gives resources, systems, tools for the organization to deliver the vision. And that's the enable. The fourth one is uh, energize, which is to inspire. A leader is a source of inspiration for uh, the organization. And the best way to inspire is through success stories. So, telling stories that you as a leader uh, have had in your experience. It happened to me sometimes to be in a lunch with young folks from my organization. And to me, I just quote a story, an experience that I've had. And frankly, to me, it was a simple story. And at the end, people say, thank you, really, it was very helpful. I mean, to me, it was really a small story, a small experience. But for them, it was very inspiring. So we should not shy away as a leader to quote stories, experiences that you went through. So inspiration. The the last E is execute. I mean, you can have the best strategies on paper, you can have your vision, but the consumer or the customer at the end will see only the product of your execution. So, executing in excellence is important. So, having said this, so these are the 5 E's. Uh, how do we identify leaders? Well, first of all, is in recruitment. We do an assessment, having in mind these 5 E's. We know that uh, we will recruit that person and we will give him chances to develop as a leader. So we will give him trainings. Once we recruit, we give trainings, we give opportunities to develop. And the best opportunities to develop are experiences. So in PNG, you get responsibility day one, a challenging responsibility to stretch you. And these experiences will help you develop your leadership skills. Um, Exposure to leadership is important. So we often expose leaders that come from abroad. For example, if I go to Morocco, I will be exposed to young folks and talk to them, answer their questions, or they see me taking decisions or doing things. So role modeling is also a good development and inspiration for the young folks to become leaders. And the beautiful thing about PNG is if you start in Morocco, for example, and you are sent abroad to Saudi or to Geneva or to France, you have the chance to work in another environment, meet other people, and this is in itself a very rich experience to develop you as a leader.
Okay, so thank you for answering my question. So I would like to add mic back to Ella.
Thank you. Now we'll come back to Adia with your second question.
So, my second question is, how did you contribute to building and maintaining a strong corporate culture across such diverse regions as Asia Pacific, India, the Middle East, and Africa?
Okay. Uh, Let me first say one thing on culture. Okay. To me, it's the most important thing that a corporation should have. Okay. There is a saying that culture eats strategy for breakfast. Probably you heard about this. Okay. So that shows the importance of culture versus strategy. What is culture? Culture is a set of behaviors and norms you will see in an organization. So PNG stands out for this. When you go to, I don't know, you go to Latin America, a country, say Chile, PNG office, or you go to Singapore, or you go to Morocco, you will feel that you are in the same environment. And this is exceptional. Despite the cultural differences, the geography, you will find the same behaviors from people, the same norms. Uh, how do we uh, ensure this? First of all, we have what we call the statement of purpose. It is in a wall, but it's also in a booklet, and we teach our young folks, and we get even exams every year on this statement of purpose. The statement of purpose is what is the purpose of PNG, uh, what are the principles, what are the values of PNG. And we have to behave in line with these values and principles day in, day out. The who set the tone? It's leadership. Leadership set the tone. The leadership will make decisions that are based on principles. These principles are part of the principles of Procter Gamble. So when you see every day the leader taking this type of decisions based on these principles and behaving in such a way, at the end, you end up doing the same. Because leadership stresses every day what's important. And at the end, you follow and you do it. And that's the way we institutionalize a corporate culture. Now, we in HR, we used to call ourselves the guardian of the principles, the purpose, values, and principles. What does it mean? It means that, first of all, we train our employees on the PVPs. We ensure that leadership is a role model, and we ensure that this corporate culture is there. We ensure that the standards are there. So you see same standards in all the different functions. In manufacturing, there are standards of operating. It's valid everywhere. At the end, you end up having a corporate culture. And I said we have exams. Every year we get case studies, videos of 20 minutes, and we have to qualify. We have to have 100% in the questions at the end of the exam. So we are all qualified every year. Even as a senior VP, I have to go through the exam. And we in HR track the thousands of employees that have done or not done their exam.
So thank you for your answer. That was really kind of you. I leave the mic to Alef.
Thank you, Alia. Now welcome back again to Yasin, who has another question for you.
So my second question is, what advice would you give to young professionals aiming to advance in their careers and take on leadership roles?
You say entrepreneurs, you said, huh?
Professionals,
Professionals.
young professionals.
What advice? Okay. First of all, um, I'm assuming these professionals have already graduated from the university, correct? Or they are still
Yes,
in the university?
yeah, they graduate.
Graduate. Okay. Well, uh, first of all, do what you love. Go for your passion. If you go for your passion, you will succeed. Why? Because you are doing something that you love. So at the end, it's beautiful to wake up in the morning thinking that I'm going to do something that I love. And on top of this, I'm going to be paid for it. It's nice. So do what you love. Go for your passion. Okay? Don't follow a standard uh, curriculum or approach. Don't try to copy uh, others. Okay? Do what you love. Um, and you may start in the field of your studies, like I did. Huh? For 10 years, I'm a chemical engineer. For 10 years, I did production. So 1 year in OCP, 9 years in PNG. So I did my job of engineer. But at the end, 2/3 of my career was in HR. Okay, because I loved the field of HR. So the passion. Second is being humble. Not because you have a super duper diploma uh, coming out of Harvard or from MIT or from Polytechnique or from Central and say, okay, now I have it. No, uh, you have to learn. And by the way, when I started in PNG as an engineer, I did night shifts. So I worked from 10 in the evening to 6 in the morning. I had my overall and I worked as a worker, as an ouvrier, because before giving something to somebody, you have to do it yourself to understand it and to make sure you know what you are giving and to be clear who you are leading, what is their work environment, what challenges they have, etc. So humility uh, and come from the humility, learn, 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 learn. I would advise you need to learn and update yourself. I say this. Last week I was at a doctor and I told him, "Do you update yourself? Do you learn? Do you go to conferences? It's important because we discover new things, new ways, technologies, etc. So learn by being humble. You you learn. Make sure that you learn how to um, communicate. Communication is key. Why? Because people cannot read what you have in your mind. So learn upfront how to have an effective communication. Positive power of influence in communication is really key. Um, don't isolate yourself, build networks. Networks are important. Uh, build interpersonal skills, collaboration, collaborate. Never, never have enemies. Never, never have enemies. It doesn't mean compromising, no, but it's about respect to the other. You can agree to disagree. You can disagree, but it has to be done in respect to the other. Have empathy. Empathy is important. In my executive coaching, I have outstanding leaders. Most of them miss empathy. Empathy is very important, is to understand the other, putting your shoes in the shoes of the other. That's really key. I think that's in a nutshell what I have in mind on this.
Okay, so thank you for answering my question. I would like to hand the micro back to
Thank you. So, sir, with such a demanding career, how did you manage to balance your professional life with personal interests, such as coaching children's football?
Yeah. Um, just to there were two phases in my life. The first phase when I was single, I must confess, when I was single, I was working many hours, and that was when I was in manufacturing. I enjoyed the work, um, and I would say, was my life well balanced? Probably not fully balanced. Um, when I was single, up to the to when I got married at the age of 33. At that time was a bit on the on the late side. Now it's probably the norm in Morocco, but at that time, at 30 years, you are normally married. But anyway, however, however, I still managed to do sports even when I was single. And one thing I did that was nice is that I created a soccer team in PNG, Morocco, and we participated to tournaments in against other companies. And that was nice for me because I would work even on a Saturday morning till 1 o'clock, and at 2 o'clock the shift finishes, and I take some of the technicians with me, and we go and play soccer. And that was nice because I was building a nice relationship with the technicians outside work. And I used to tell them, listen, outside work, I'm Jamal, soccer player like you can be upset at me, no problem. When we are back in the work, it's a different story. But I mean, outside, it's outside. The minute I accepted to play with you guys, I'm like you, a player. Um, as I got married, obviously I had to be careful and manage better my my life. Um, and I was blessed to meet a senior VP from HR, an American lady. And I asked her a question. I said, how do you manage your work life balance? You are a senior VP, you travel, and you have 3 children. And she said, it's simple. There is a key guiding principle. It's not about quantity of time you spend with your family, it's the quality of time. So you can spend just half an hour a day, but it's a quality half an hour, while 2 hours, it's not a quality. For example, you are sitting watching TV with your kids or with your wife, but you are not communicating. That's not a quality time. So, with this insight, what I did is I agreed with my wife when our children, I have 2 boys. What I was doing is I would spend half an hour quality breakfast, and I was even instilling uh, the importance of breakfast to my children. So we would have a nice breakfast, spent together, joking, smiling, and a good start of the day. That was half an hour, but half an hour quality time. And because I had a long day, so I would come back at home only around 7:30. I agreed with my wife that at 7:30 the boys are in their room. Both of them at that time they were sharing the same room. And I would come. They are in the bed, ready to sleep, and for half an hour I read a book, a story, Petit Chaperon Rouge or Cendrillon, whatever. And last 5 minutes I create a story on my own, and they sleep. And that's quality 1 hour in total during the day. Weekends, what I used to do is um, working when they have their homework to do, I go and do my work. So usually I work a couple of hours, 3 hours the weekend. The rest of the weekend is spent with my children, with the exception of 1 hour of jogging that I was having with my neighbors. And luckily, when I was coach of soccer, I was coaching one of the boys. So the president of the club was very kind to give me either my oldest son or my son, my second son, depending on how I was evolving in my coaching qualifications. So I was spending the afternoon of Saturday with one of my boys. And the also very important thing is my boys were doing piano lessons. When they have events, important events, exam, for example, of piano, where the parents are invited, I am present, I go. When there is a school activity, I go. So important events, I do not miss them, most of them. And that's very important. That requires discipline, focus, and keeping in mind that it's about quality and not about quantity.
Thank you for your answer. It's really inspiring and like interesting. Thank you so much. Now I'll come back to Alia for her last question.
So, my last question is, how do you see the role of the human resources evolving in the coming years, particularly with the rise of remote work and digital technologies? Thank you.
Um, First of all, let me take a pause and explain how I see the, the, the role of HR. Um, to me, an HR leader is like an architect. There is an entrepreneur who wants to build something and he will call for an architect. To me, the HR leader is an architect of building an organization and ensuring that this organization is operating within the norms, and that's uh, culture, the environment norms, and the other norms, safety norms, etc. HR is making sure that you recruit the right people. So why I say architect, you recruit the right people, you ensure that they are trained, developed, they have the tools, they operate in the right culture, right environment, inspired and enabled, engaged by right leaders that you develop, that you have to motivate, and motivation is about reward and recognition, and you develop them and grow them through a career path. And the HR leader is the architect of, of this. Will this change? No, in my view, this will not change, whether we are remote or in the digital world. However, in my view, what will change and what is the challenge is the fact that with the remote, there will be fewer physical interactions. And the HR has to ensure that there is a minimum of physical interactions. If you want to uh, see how the leader behaves, you have to see him or her in action. So you have to be with him, close to him, um, interacting with a person in a computer is not as interacting with a person uh, closely physically. That's why, by the way, when I was in regional role, I had to travel. Most of my communications were done remotely with the markets because I had HR leaders or general managers in the different markets. So I was communicating with them via video conference. But time to times, I would go and meet them in their market physically for smelling or feeling the smell of the place. You have to smell it. You have to be there. and interact with people. So we in HR have to be very conscious about the importance of maintaining um, physical interactions. The digital, digital is like in. I had when I was I was 15 years old. A professor of French taught us one thing. He said, "Le progrès est à double tranchant. D'une main, il construit, de l'autre, il détruit." Okay? And that's valid also for the digital. If the digital is used properly, with a purpose and within norms, standards, and regulations built on values, it is a very effective and nice tool. So the role of HR is to ensure that the digital tools are being used properly by the organization, and the organization is well trained on this. But on the contrary, if used properly, many things are very helpful. Just take in HR data. Um, when digitized are very helpful because you can get information very quickly. Now, let me say a word on ChatGPT, for example. Um, ChatGPT is very helpful, is very good, but if we use it we don't use it properly, we will end up being dependent on it, victim of it, and leading to sometimes things that cannot be proper from a value standpoint. So ChatGPT should be used really properly as a tool, but not as an end. The challenge of HR we had in P&G is the retention of top talents. There is a war of talents, let's face it. You get, you try to get the best talents, you train them, you develop them, you even send them abroad. And what happened to us sometimes is when you send them abroad, they come back home, their value in the market is very high, and other companies take them. So we have to be conscious about this, and stay competitive in the marketplace in this war of talents. But to me, HR will continue to play a major business partner role, whether um, in a remote, in a company that uses remote setup or not.
Thank you for your answer, Mr. Berradia.
My pleasure.
So, last but not least, last question. If you were to advise aspiring entrepreneurs on the importance of corporate culture and employee development during the early stages of building a business,
During, sorry?
uh, during the early stages of building a business,
Ah, so you are talking about being an entrepreneur.
yeah.
Ah, to me, um, I would say first, before becoming an entrepreneur and starting business, perhaps question yourself, should I first gain some experience before becoming an entrepreneur? Okay. Um, Starting it's very good to become an entrepreneur as you are still young because you don't have responsibilities and so on. Okay, but I would submit it's important to be first um, going through an experience in a company. I, by the way, give the same advice to youngsters who or graduates who jump into consulting role. And I know that I'm jumping into something different and something controversial, but I've seen many becoming consultants from as they get out of university. Before advising somebody, do the work, understand the industry, understand the business, and then you can become a very effective consultant. So that's one thing. The second thing is um, whatever I said on somebody who is graduate, the advice applies to an entrepreneur. I started by saying go for what you love. Okay, so an entrepreneur, if he or she wants to start a business, do something that you love, you have passion for. Don't try to say, no, this works, this people have made money with this, I want to do this. But if you don't like it, if you don't love it, it's not your passion, you will not succeed. So go for something you love, you have passion for. Okay, that's a very important thing. The second thing is um, you have to uh, uh, you have to do something that um, is there should be a purpose behind. You need to be purpose driven, and the purpose driven is um, going for a business that um, has an objective of meeting the needs of a marketplace. P&G, um, what's the purpose of P&G? Is to make products that improve the lives of the consumer every day. Uh, Washing the hair, washing the cloth, washing the floors, shaving. It's meeting consumer needs. Or diaper, by the way, P&G was the inventor of baby diapers. And improved the moms and the dads, they improved their lives. So it has, your business should be built and driven by a purpose. You have to have a business plan, clearly what is the vision, and accepting that there could be failure. Okay, but leaders fail, they don't give up, they learn from the failure and grow. Okay, so you have to be prepared for this. So you need to have a plan that is built very smartly, and a cautious plan that builds also on failure. Optimism is good, but realism is important. So you have to be realistic. Um, okay. And to me, trying to gain a lot of money and very quickly is not a good objective. Okay. Step by step, and reinventing or reinvesting what you have earned. Creativity and innovation is important. You reach a level, you have to be creative and innovate to meet again the consumer or the customer needs. Be very close to the market or to the consumers, listening. Um, if you work in isolation, you won't succeed. So you have to go and understand the marketplace, understand your competitors, if any, and try to be better. And then, all the qualities I've talked about, uh, becoming a leader, which is are also valid here.
Yes, thank you so much for your answer.
My
And
pleasure.
with that amazing question, and I'd like to thank you for your time and for taking from your time to be featured on here in Saga International School's Moroccan Success Stories. And I would also like to thank Awariq Alia and Yasin Gozro for being with us here today. And we hope to meet again as soon as possible. Thank you so much, sir.
Well, thank you. You're most welcome. Thank you all. I applaud again this initiative. Take care of yourself. Taking care of yourself is very important. Um, one thing I've learned in G, which is a model of being a corporate athlete, taking care of yourself means that you optimize your energy and you use physical energy with good hygiene of eating habits, physical exercises. Then there is an energy which is emotional energy, how to um, be emotionally strong and manage your emotions. By the way, it's one thing that I did not on leadership is emotionally intelligent. And when we are empathic, we are emotionally intelligent. Mental energy, don't focus on too many things, don't try to do too many things. And the last energy is spiritual energy. وإحنا الحمد لله المسلمين, we have very nice rituals of prayers during the day. When I went through this course in Florida and I mentioned to them the rituals of the prayer, the teacher was really impressed because prayers makes you disengage and recharge your batteries. That's very important. So that's what I meant by taking care of yourself.
Thank you. We'll
Thank
take your
you.
advice and take care of ourselves. And thank you so much.
Assalamu.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.